Let's give you now a look inside the so-called spin room. In just a few minutes, this place will be full of the candidates and their surrogates trying to spin their messages and explain why they say they won the debate. It was certainly a lively place late last night.
And let's get our spin from our own Jim DeFede, the host of Facing South Florida.
No spin here. No
no spin. My bad. Look, it was pretty obvious the group was coming for Joe Biden, the front runner.
No, absolutely. I mean, this was really the first night of the race for Joe Biden. And look, I don't think you can deny the way some of those candidates came out of him. You know, Swalwell came at him early, sort of invoking the age play by saying 36 years ago there was a candidate who used to talk about passing the torch. It was Joe Biden. He needs to pass the torch. But really, the most effective person on that stage to go after Joe Biden was Senator Kamala Harris. She was devastating. She is the clear winner of tonight's debate. What she did in terms of talking about race relations, talking about Biden's record on busing and those issues, and to make it personal, to talk about how she herself was that little girl that was bused because Joe Biden, when he was in the Senate, didn't work to block, or to allow busing didn't try to block busing from taking place.
Right.
And interesting to see too, because they were both on the Obama administration, so she set herself apart from the former vice president in that way.
No, absolutely. I mean, look, this was really an interesting moment for Joe Biden, in part because I think that what happened here is he came into this race, he came into tonight's debate wanting to talk about Donald Trump. And I think in the first answer of his first question, he invoked Donald Trump's name at least 3 or 4 times. That was the strategy for him coming in. But when these other candidates started coming at him, he couldn't fly above them any longer. They pulled him down to their level, and I think that hurts him in the end.
So what are you saying? Is this a game changer? Is he no longer the clear front runner?
He is still the front runner until we start seeing polling that shows anything different. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. One of the reasons why Joe Biden has been the front runner is in part because he has had such good support within the African American community. If anyone could challenge him on that, it is Kamala Harris. She did a marvelous job. Clearly I'm repeating myself because this is the storyline of the night, is what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, their face-offs, they really had moments tonight that'll be replayed for days and weeks to come.
How about Bernie Sanders? Did he miss some opportunities tonight?
Yeah, there was the way I sort of think about how Bernie Sanders was on stage. I didn't hear anything new, so it was like a lot of the old hits from 2016. In that sense, it was sort of like a Billy Joel concert where he's playing Piano Man and the rest of it. Medicare for all, free college education, all those sorts of things. Bernie Sanders in 2016 was something unique. In 2020, Bernie Sanders is not unique because of Elizabeth Warren and other candidates, and the party has moved to the left partly because of him. So he doesn't have a clear lane as he does anymore. And so as a result, he needed to sort of jumpstart his campaign and really move things along. Again, you're looking at the spin room. But again, I don't think that he had the type of night that he was looking for. Some of the other candidates were looking to try to make a move. Kristen Gillibrand tried. I'm not sure she did. I'll tell you, I think Pete Buttigieg had a good night.
I was just going to ask you about him. Yeah, I thought he was pretty salient quickly on some of the points that he was making.
I think he handled the questions about what's going on in South Bend, Indiana, the police shooting there, right, by owning up to it and saying, we've tried, I've fallen short, we're going to continue to work on it. I think people respect that.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. You'll be following it for us.
Thank you, Jim. Stay with CBS 4 News and CBSMiami.com for continuing coverage of Campaign 2020. And wake up with CBS 4 this morning, beginning at 4:30 for overnight.